Why are you in Hawaii?
I'm here because I'm sick of walking down that damn Queen K. Just want to at least jog back from the energy lab for once in my life. So we're here starting the campaign to figure out how to jog back from the energy lab during the race. i.e., I think we can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. We've got to come get some hard data of what's actually happening when we're out there. And so this is the beginning of that. This is the big one. This is the one where we're going to amass a lot of data. And we won't get all of the data points because it is a little cooler than it is in September and October here. But this is a great starting point, and already the data we've amassed is very interesting and haven't necessarily learned anything like that we didn't already suspect, but we have some hard underpinning now to what our intuition already was. So what we're doing, because it's January and because you don't have a ton of fitness, you know, ideally, in an ideal world, you just do the race really hard and stop midway through, which you can't do during the race. So if you came here and just did huge day at race pace and just stopped and, you know, gathered data along the way, that would probably be like obviously just doing it and finding out what's happening would provide the most value, but that's, you know, dumb, a recipe for disaster, recipe for injury, and just not possible because I just couldn't do what I intend to do in October now. But so the next best thing, in my opinion, is to spread it over a few days, that effort, and just get it as close to racing as what you intend to execute on race day as possible, and do that thing as we said, which in our case, this is how we planned it. Day one, to do the first half of the bike. Then day two, we did the swim just as we would do it in the race, come home, rest for a little bit, and then we did the second half of the run, which I ran at actually a little above goal race pace just because it was a little overcast and it was actually quite difficult. And that's kind of one of the interesting parts about the Ironman, is how ridiculously easy a good Ironman run is when you don't actually have to precede it with a swim and a bike. But anyways, that was day two. Day three, we'll do the second half of the bike, all the things the same. And day four, we'll do the first half of the run, all things the same. And then that's it. So we're basically going to do what my goal for October's Ironman pace. We'll have done it all in practice and got the data of kind of what the cost of that effort is. And then that'll help us to inform our strategy, our nutrition and fluid consumption strategy for the race. And hopefully I can do something at least a step above walking back from the energy lab in 2020. So that's what we're doing here is, you know, Gatorade helped, and Gatorade in the beginning, but I didn't listen and use. So now we've come here in the real situation, and Gatorade sent all the stuff for us to be able to do this and conduct this test. And David's administering all the stuff. And so yeah, they've been a big help, and hopefully now I've got enough, you know, hard knock lessons and enough discipline, and now with this test I'll also have hard data to not let that, you know, and truly to me, a near-death experience happen again.
How useful is it to have David here kind of going through all this with you, collecting the data, and how much will he involve it in your training?
I mean, we wouldn't be able to do this without David here, so this wouldn't happen if David wasn't here. How am I supposed to do it? I mean, you're on the camera, Aaron's driving the car. I mean, it's impossible. So David's conducting all, and this is, you know what I mean? This is pretty precise stuff. Like, you can't be like messing around. Like, you got to be very precise. And so we need someone with a scientific mind to be very precise and understand the data collection and, you know, using the numbers and how you kind of subtract this from that and add this and that. And You know, and then on the run, we also took some oxygen data, oxygen utilization data, which will be interesting to look at. So yeah, he's been integral to this. Yeah, so I think this is a really interesting and kind of pivotal moment, and we've been documenting everything now for like nearly 2 years, but this I think for me is like the culmination of a lot of lessons and an appreciation, a deep appreciation for the fact that an Ironman is not just about speed and fitness, because I've come here with great speed and fitness, and it's not translated into you know, the race that I'm after. And so this is a combination of that, and this is like, you know, actions speak louder than words. Here I am, you know, you can talk about this and that, but here I am doing the work that needs to be done. And so I think it's important that we document this journey in its entirety, because it would have been a lot easier to stay at home and just kind of, you know, crank the heat up and say, oh, it's kind of around there, that's what's happening during the race. But I think it's put your money where your mouth is. Here we are. We're finding out, you know, very, very close to what's actually happening in the race, and this is going to inform, once we crunch the numbers, calculate the data, this will greatly inform, I think, for the rest of my career, how I approach this race. Because the beauty of this race is that the conditions don't really change in October here. So that's kind of the nice part about it. But yeah, the next few videos I think are going to be about just the actual ins and outs of what we did in this camp, and then once we crunch the data, we'll probably do an update video, you know, talking about what we learned, how we're going to apply it, and then I guess what the goal is when we've trained to the best of our ability from a nutritional and digestive standpoint. Kind of what is our goal in that department, and that'll be in maybe 3-4 videos down the road.
I would say the vast majority of my shortcomings in the last 2 years could have easily been prevented had Talbot just spoke up. Said he kept it to himself the whole time.
It's all your fault.
It's all
I
your
wasn't
fault.
as intelligent in 18.
Oh.
In 19, I should have spoke up. I was really nervous in Tucson.
He's a lot smarter now, is what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
So you matured as you aged.
No.
I wouldn't say I've matured, but I will say I'm more intelligent as far as watching train. But I think that comes with watching like Tim and Rennie train, and watching Gwen train, and watching you train. Cause like, then again, last year, then I kind of doubted myself, because I look at Tim O'Donnell and I'm like, come on, man, like you're about to get your ass handed to you from Lionel.
Yeah.
Like he's out trains you 10 days a week, and you can't even run, and you haven't ran in weeks. And then
This
again,
is such a great testament to, and Ben Hoffman agreed with this, of
Freshness.
how we overtrain ourselves to death.
Yeah.
And he had a great run and a great all-around race.
I always said to you, minimum effective dose of training.
and that's
What
and
the hell
then
is that?
from right there, I literally learned that you can train smarter, not harder.
Well, that's right. Jan messaged and said, I don't know what kind of thing your doctor told you, but like, you need to be getting off that bike.
Yeah.
I never listened to him.
No.
I reduced the power though. From then on, after he messaged me, I didn't allow myself to go over 150 watts for like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Which 150 watts, literally, you couldn't even touch, didn't even feel like you were touching the pedals, you know what I mean? I couldn't even keep up with Talbot on the bike. I had to drop him.
You had the watt resistant thermometer on.
That was fun, eh? And we had that bike ride?
Yeah,
to
that
the,
actually was fun.
No, it wasn't.
coffee shop?
I really want to get. I would actually this year like to get an electric bike that I can go ride with you.
That would
And
be
like
fun,
you
eh?
ride
like a
hard.
real one, like a real
road
Like
bike.
specialized,
Yeah.
like specialized one. The one
No,
that-
Canyon makes one.
Canyon do one as well.
Yeah. Do you think that you're in a spot in your career, Lionel, where you can trust David?
I mean, the proof is in the pudding. I already did that for 1 year, and I have my best year all around in across all the disciplines. So the proof is in the pudding. You know what I mean? Like it's not really at this stage. Maybe 17 was like that, right? 17, I was like, oh, I'm trusting. But we already proved. I think we already proved
Yeah,
that
I
we
think-
work well together, and it
I
works.
think there was definitely some teething issues, and there was
Oh, of course.
certainly, both of us can look back and say there's probably some communication aspects that we could have handled better, that would have been beneficial for you in your performance.
Mhm.
on my front and your front, and that's why we're at where we're at now. We're not doing this now because we want to get you better. We're doing this now because we want to do better than we did in 2017. And that's a pretty high bar.
Yeah, I mean, in 17, it was like, I think there was a bit of arrogance too, from my standpoint, because I was like, it was clear as day to me. It was like, I made all these mistakes, and it was like, okay, I'm winning this thing next year. You know what I mean? That's in my mind.
Yeah.
And it couldn't have been any further from that when it came down to the day. And I think a lot of it was I took all the credit for myself. You know what I mean? This is a growing thing for me as a human being. It was just like, oh no, it's me. And it's like, well, it's not you though. Obviously, it's not you. We saw what you can do in 18.
but it's you, it's me, it's Aaron.
Yeah,
it's
a
dad,
team.
It's your
Like,
mom,
it's a team.
It's a village.
Uh-huh.
It takes a village.
And
David.
And so that's growing for me. That's the beauty of this sport, or sport in general, is everyone thinks it stops at sport, but this is something this goes far beyond sport. I mean, you're growing as a human being.
Yeah.
And so I had to go down that thing and have these experiences to grow as a human being. But here we are, and I feel I'm a better person now than I was then because of those experiences, which is great. I mean, and that won't leave you after sport.
No, not at all. I mean, that's and the process that we went through, that also influenced how I work, and I'm not the same coach now that I was then. So
sure, I mean, this is great. Like this is just shows how it transcends sport. You know what I mean? We're all evolving. I think the moment where we stop evolving is we're all screwed.
Oh yeah, that's when you retire. So.
Can you give us a little rundown of what you guys have planned this week? What you're going to be doing?
You want me to go through it?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, we want to cover off different aspects of the course. The swim course. We want to look at sort of overall fluid loss and exertion rates in the swim. So we'll capture as much data as we can there. We'll look at things like heart rate, lactate, and sweat loss based on body weight changes. And then the bike, we're split into two. We'll look at the first half of the course, the second half of the course. Try and pick the times of day to reflect the weather conditions as much as possible in October. And again, look at sweat rate, look at exertion. From a lactate perspective, we look at some biomechanics stuff in terms of Lionel's positioning when he's outdoors relative to indoors, and then repeat that when we do the second half of the bike. And then much the same with the run, although on the run we've got the added benefit of being able to look at oxygen use as well, and that will give us some real insight into carbohydrate metabolism, fat metabolism, and again the sweat loss. So overall we'll get as much data as possible that can help ask better questions around how to isolate the important things. So rather than just kind of a shotgun approach of we just test all sorts of things and that's going to influence our decision making, I think the better way is to kind of capture as much data as possible and then say, right, well, what questions do we need answered? Fair?
Yeah, I think once again, I mean, this is something I could never do on my own. So, I mean, this is huge to have you here running the ship. So that's great, and it's something I've been pushing off. I've wanted to do this. I know how important it is because I know I'm a heavy sweater anyway. I mean, these are things I don't even know about: carbohydrate usage, oxygen. I mean, this is stuff I'd never even think about really. So for me, the big one has been sweat, and I know I sweat a lot, and so I've been meaning to come here for 5 years to at least find out what am I sweating in the conditions, for a couple of reasons. One, of course, just to inform the nutrition plan in the race, but then also I think coming here to do this I'll never forget. I mean, whatever, I keep saying these kinds of things, but if I actually come here and do a nutrition plan and see the hard data, like I never in the race, right, ever get the data, you know what I mean? Yeah. All I know is I feel horrible. So I'm inferring in this last race, I did weigh myself right before, and then I weighed myself when I got home, and I didn't consume anything after the race because I couldn't, and I had lost 17 pounds. So now we'll actually get some insight into the in-between, and I think it'll probably make it appreciate it more when you see no, you actually are sweating at 3 liters an hour while running out there, something like that. And you'll be like, there's no way you're going to ever do well if you don't get on top of this and create a very good, and anytime you have a race in the heat like this. And so I think it's really good that we're coming here. Because of course, I mean, that's always the argument, oh, it's a little bit cooler right now, blah, blah, blah. Or we can create the conditions in a laboratory, and it's like, but it's not going to, it don't stick. Like, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to get the data, the hard data, and I'm never going to forget this. And so
I think the reality as well is that we're afforded the luxury of capturing a lot of information, and we almost certainly will come away with a lot of that will just reinforce things that you or I already sort of intuitively know about you, or it will just reaffirm things that we've kind of back of the envelope calculated before, and that's fine. That's the whole point. You know, that's the point with a lot of testing. It's not about, you know, testing for the sake of testing. It's about, you know, getting answers that either ratify, you know, a nutrition plan that you have, or actually make you go, okay, actually we need to completely rethink this. So I expect that some of the things that we'll come away with will go, well, we already kind of knew that. And it's like, well, okay, well, that's fine, but now we know it in concrete, in black and white. But there might also be some stuff where we go, okay, that's surprising.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that's going to pay dividends for the rest of my career anyway. I can't really see, I don't really think we'll have to come here and do this exact thing again. I do believe it'll be useful to get more data whenever we do come for the 3 weeks or 4 weeks before Kona. Maybe every year try and strive to grab another data point or something, but yeah. I think this is going to be the brunt of the data collection, and this will inform as well. One of the reasons I wanted to do it early is because I can begin really wrapping my head around what's going to be required from a nutritional standpoint, because I think it is going to be pretty astronomical, and I think it's going to require training. Like, that's definitely something I threw out the window the last 2 years. There was no training happening in the gut. In fact, I was starting to concentrate my Gatorade actually at 2/3 concentrate, because I have the little scoops, and I was like, oh, I'm not sweating that much, I don't need to fully concentrate it. And that was just, and I wasn't drinking very much of it because I wasn't, you know what I mean, I rarely was doing extremely long things where it was like, I would do, as you do inside, 68 degrees most of the time, so your sweating's not that much, and so it's just not important. On the other hand, if you came here and did a 7-hour day or something, I mean, you ain't going to make it to 7 hours if you were consuming what I was consuming oftentimes in training, and then all of a sudden you ask your gut to handle. I didn't ask it, and probably because I knew what would happen, but even in 2017, I mean, I was training pretty hard in the sense of I was constantly drinking 2 bottles an hour, or 2+ bottles an hour, and in the race I ended up asking myself to drink almost 3 bottles an hour, which I did successfully do, almost. I did 11 bottles in 4 hours and 13 minutes or something. So anyways, it gives me a ton of time to practice what we get from this. And then if there's any more questions, it also gives us more time to think about how can we construct training, etc., to fix or answer those questions.
One other question. You have one of your more popular videos is your famous nutrition plan video for Ironman. When you leave here, do you think you'll have the answer for that, or do you think that you need to take all the data? Who are you going to send it to? What are you going to do? And when will you kind of update us on your nutrition plan video?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, this is data that's irrelevant to anyone else, right? So it's like, you just give the data, like, yeah, what do you want to know? Like, you're going to have to, unfortunately, if you really want concrete data, you're going to have to go do some of your own testing. Like, everyone's different. And that was my point earlier, is that, you know, we might do this testing and it'll just, like, it'll just ratify what we did in 2017, which I literally remember, like, Lionel and I sat down in the apartment you had, and you wrote it out on the back of an envelope. I do remember that.
And the week before the race, we did the whole bike course.
And we made a mistake, because remember, we had to do it twice.
Yeah.
Because we did it the first time, and I did it with normal Gatorade.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, that didn't have enough. So I could just tell when I went running afterwards that I didn't have enough sodium and stuff. And so then I was like, had to make this, like, I was like, I feel so insecure right now. And so then
because I got in a couple of days after you'd done it once. And they're like, do you think it's okay if I ride the bike
one more time, just to test it with Gatorade endurance?
Yeah.
And that was a big 50-50 on that one, whether you should have done that or not. But for me, it gave a lot of confidence, because I was like, oh wow, I feel so much better with Gatorade. The Gatorade endurance is basically double the sodium for unit volume, double the potassium for unit volume. And that was extremely important. And in fact, one of the conclusions I recall afterwards was the plan was supposed to be, in that time, in the bike ride, to consume 12 bottles, so 3 bottles an hour basically, of which I was going to consume 9 Gatorade Endurances, and 3 bottles of water. And with hindsight, one of the things I would have changed was, with those bottles of water, I would have also made sure I had
more electrolytes.
More electrolytes to offset it.
We tried to triage the situation based on data and experience I have with athletes with a high sweat race around electrolyte supplementation just with salt. And in hindsight, again, maybe that just wasn't quite enough.
And I don't know the answer. I mean, I really don't know what impact, but that was one of the the things I recall thinking afterwards was, well, that's, maybe we could have got some free speed there. But anyways, to answer your question, I mean, we'll share the data. Absolutely, we'll share all the data, and if anything, what I think it will, and which I hope it will do, is inspire other people to go get their own hard data and believe in it deeply, because you went and got it either in the conditions or in created conditions that resemble whatever you're training for. But if you're a heavy sweater, I mean, the fact of the matter is, I came to this race last year in really good shape. I mean, I did not perform, in my opinion, anywhere near where I could have performed. I literally came off the bike with Keenley, and Brownlee was all I could see him. He's right there. I mean, and Brownlee too is another guy who feels the same way. Like, he obviously proved it 6 weeks later in Western Australia or whatever. And I had done that before too in 16, where I felt like I underperformed, and then went and smashed one in Arizona 6 weeks later. And the same was true of this race. And it's a real testament to, you can be in the best shape, and I was in good shape. You can be in the best shape of your entire life and perform absolutely horribly. And I would say, from my perspective, what I can see the biggest problem was severe dehydration. And so at the very least, hopefully it will inspire other people to not make that mistake. And I'm not going to dig myself a hole or anything here and say, I'm going to watch this video and stuff. David will remind me each time. I won't have to watch the video.
We know, in a kind of a simplistic way, we know that for sort of 1 or 2 standard deviations away from the process and the plan, there are severe consequences, performance-wise. And my job is to make sure Lionel isn't disappearing off at tangents and creating those deviations through decision making. And